The industry itself is absolutely amazing. When I first started watching, and I'm going to date myself here, it was the mid to late 80s. The first thing that I honestly remember is Hulk Hogan stepping on top of King Kong Bundy in a cage match, and that resonated with me. It was larger than life, the lights, the cage, the commentary. As a young kid, seeing that, it stuck with me, and it was something that, throughout the weeks that followed, I had to get more.
I grew up watching a lot of wrestling. I grew up with a good childhood, good parents. My dad never understood wrestling. He just understood that I liked it. And he used to bug me, and he used to say, hey, you know what? I don't understand. I don't get it. Like, how do you watch this? How do you find this entertaining? And somewhere along the line, he and I kind of aligned, because he surprised me with wrestling tickets on October 14th, 1992. And the first thing he said was, enjoy it, because it's the only time that you're ever going to be able to see it.
I started watching on a weekly basis, and that larger-than-life feeling, and every time it came on, I had to watch. And it was a religious thing where it was just week after week after week. And you got involved in the stories, and you got involved in the characters, and the kids, and the interviews, and it was just, I get excited every time I talk about it. When I first started thinking about getting into professional wrestling, it wasn't something whereby I really had a plan. Right? Like, I didn't know anybody in the business. I didn't know anybody, that did that on a regular basis. So I had to do some research. I learned that there was a professional wrestling school in Cambridge, the Hart School of Wrestling. The Hart name is synonymous with wrestling. They're a famous family. Stu Hart was the trainer, started Stampede Wrestling. It was something that I didn't really know existed at the time, the Ontario Indie Wrestling Circuit. So I met people like Eddie Osborne, and he's actually the one that got me started. Once we got into school there, we learned about, I started kind of picking his brain, and he was just recently had started at that point what is now known as 365 Pro Wrestling, which was before known as Pure Wrestling Association, or PWA Canada. I started going to the shows there, and then I branched out to another show called Ringing Ears, and myself and my commentary partner now, Phil Warder, who was actually in my college class and my college roommate, we started going out to other different shows, just kind of, getting a feel for the business. But I always came back to PWA, and PWA used to run weekly in Brantford, but I started going to those shows weekly, and I would try and pick the brain of any of the wrestlers, whether it was Eddie or any of his roster that were there, that would speak with me. And there came a day when the ring announcer couldn't make it. So another gentleman by the name of Paul Wright, he was doing commentary for them, and he made mention that to Eddie that I had broadcasting background. So it ended up that I had the opportunity to ring announce. I did a little audition, and Eddie seemed to like it. But yeah, no, that's initially how I got my start, is by going week after week and showing face, and basically being, I hope, not too annoying as far as the wrestlers and Eddie. I've always said, and I'll continue to say, I'm so thankful for Eddie for taking the time to let a kid pick his brain.
When you get into the wrestling business, there's people that are supportive, and then there's people that aren't so supportive, and unfortunately I've had my share of both. Wrestling, see, you have to understand, okay? Wrestling is not ballet. Wrestling is a form of art. It's a form of theater. Is it painful? You bet. Is it difficult? Sometimes, yeah. Do you get injuries? Sure you do. But does wrestling owe me anything? Absolutely not. I owe wrestling.
I always feel whenever him and I talked together, or whenever we did our thing on the magazine show, I was the one that was on point. I was the one that was more organized and just generally more on top of things, where Nicky Martin, and I do mean this with all sincerity, was maybe a bit of a wild man, and maybe just kind of more emotional than logical. So I think the style started from what we did together on the magazine show, and also our influences from famous wrestling broadcasters. With myself, I'll say it, and I'm not afraid to say it without sugarcoating it. I like to say I'm a mix between Mr. Gordon Soley, Mr. Gorilla Monsoon, and a little bit of Lance Russell, maybe even Dave Mercer, any of the straight-ahead play-by-play commentators. You know, I have to throw in Jim Ross as well. The ones who just gave it to you straight, but also with a friendly disposition, so to speak.
With me, if you're looking at commentary, I tended to gravitate between people like Bobby the Brain Heenan, who it's no secret is a hero of mine, Jerry the King Lawler, who was a mainstay in Memphis, people like the Grand Wizard, who for whatever reason I've been compared to, and I consider that a great honor to be considered in conversations with people like that. And he's right. I don't think logically. I think kind of off the cuff. Whatever comes, and I just kind of roll with it. And for myself and for Philly style, it works.
Keeping the hard questions right till the, why didn't you tell me this before, Sean? But let me tell you something. What makes me magnificent? A lot of things make me magnificent. It took me a long time to get the confidence to even promote, to even start things. When we had the first conversation between myself and a gentleman by the name of Precise Paul Wright, he looked at me and he said, "Hey, you could probably promote your own show." And I looked at him like he was absolutely bonkers. And I said, "Hey, I can't do that. What are you talking about?" And I looked at him, and then 2 weeks later we had another conversation, and I said, "Hey, you know what? I think I can do that. I think that we could probably put something together that people would enjoy." And you know what? We did that. We got everything together. Everybody came together. I think I talked to about 17 or 18 different wrestlers, probably drove them bonkers asking them for advice. And then we had that show. And it was in front of 30 or 40 people. Now look at us, we're around 300, 350 on a good day people, and it's a lot different. So what makes me magnificent? The fact that I can persevere through everything. I've got a couple of different issues that I never let bother me. I don't know what people know about me or what they don't, but fact is I've got cerebral palsy. You wouldn't know that with me sitting down. You wouldn't know that with me even looking up. But the fact of the matter is, I'm still here. I'm always gonna be here. And you gotta understand that Magnificent Championship Wrestling, that's my passion. So the fact is you can look at anything that you want, and you can talk about anything that you want, about how promoting is supposed to be, how life is supposed to be, how wrestling is supposed to be. But I broke the mold. So what makes me magnificent? I'm gonna be the man that for 13 years has given Brantford, Ontario some of the absolute best in professional wrestling. And that, my friend, makes me magnificent. That is the end of it.